I realize I'm supposed to tag people at the end of this video, but I'm going to actually film this and then put it at the beginning. So the people I'm going to tag for this series of questions are some people that I've been watching more lately and just want to hear their response. Drop Dice, Dr. Funlove TV, WAS D20, Wood WWAD. I guess these guys have been around forever, and the Gentleman Gamer. So that's my 5 that I'm going to pick to tag for this video. Hello everyone, this is Tim, and this is going to be a video response to CondorDM. I had done the player response, now I'm going to go and do the GM response, or DM. Dungeon Master or Game Master. Alright, number 1. What do you call player agency? I think I just call this the ability to make choices and to have those choices matter. So I try to stay away from things like illusion of choice. I try to have consequences that actually mean something, that happen as a result of what was done in a campaign or a one-shot. So just, I guess, freedom. Maybe freedom is another way to describe player agency. The ability to do things. And I always come back to my thoughts about video games, where in a video game there are times when you can tell there are certain parts of that video game that you're not allowed to interact with. And I really love that role-playing games allow you to interact with whatever you want to, as long as you have a GM that's willing to go along with, what you're doing at the table. So yeah, freedom, the ability to make choices. I think that's pretty much it. Number 2, what does railroading mean to you if you do apply it? And if not, can you say why? I try to really stay away from railroading. I try to present situations that, at times maybe there is a best way, at least in the GM's head, of what the character should do. But often you'll be surprised with what players decide to do. You present the situation and you really have no idea what a group of friends or strangers is going to decide, is the course of action to take. And I really do enjoy being surprised. There have been times when I set up encounters that, while they weren't like a wall, or they weren't something that could easily be overcome. I guess by putting in something that is so powerful, it's almost like a railroad. It's a situation where, like, well, you're either gonna run away or you're an idiot. So I guess in that regard, I have done something like that. I know in my short-lived first stage of Middle Earth play-by-post game, there was a situation where I wanted something horrific, something world-changing to happen. So I had some of Ungoliant, this ancient evil spider, had bred in an area that wasn't canon in the setting in Beleriand in the first stage of Middle Earth, and the spawn of this evil spider were pouring forth into the land. So in my head, I thought there this situation is too overwhelming for the characters to deal with, so they should run away. So because I did that, it did kind of feel like a railroad, that you know they should have gone down a certain way. And this is something that I need to work on. I don't do it all the time, but I have done it even in recent campaigns. So, in your head when you're doing your prep, like, that was sort of like the idea for the campaign, is there's this big bad bunch of spiders running everywhere. How on earth are they going to stop it? But what ended up happening is they decided to fight it. They decided to run into, thousands of spiders, which surprised me. I was like, wow, that's what we're going to do. And I think it actually, my doing that sort of started the campaign off on a bad foot. And I don't know if you've ever been involved in play-by-post games, but it can kind of mess things up if you have like a bad first impression, or a bad start, as in this campaign I had, in my opinion. So it was a learning experience, and I've kind of gotten off the topic here. So I have done it. I really try to stay away from it. I try to stay away from linear plots, unless it makes sense in the campaign, like military orders, or if you have like a big bad that you're serving, or sort of hierarchy. I think mission-based things kind of make more sense, and I'm more willing to go along with the railroad. If it's just the GM's whim or will, and that's the reason there's railroad, it's nothing in the game or in the setting, then I often fight against it. You know, I could even kind of veer into problem player areas if I don't watch myself. I definitely prefer more freedom, player agency, sandboxy type campaigns. All right, number 3. How does it feel like for you when you've had a bad session? I did a video a long time ago about the GM's worst enemy, and in that video, I pretty much nailed this, I think. I beat myself up, I tear myself down, I have a tendency to just dwell on my mistakes and faults, and not in a constructive manner. Sometimes, if again, I don't really watch myself, I can demotivate myself to the point where I no longer want to run the campaign. I basically kill the campaign by all this negativity in my head. So, trying to be more positive in my gaming things as well as my own personal life, trying to have more confidence in what I can do and my abilities. So, I'm a work in progress, but I've been trying to be healthier, up here in this little thick skull of mine. So, okay, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, it's bad. I make myself feel pretty terrible. So, hopefully, if that would happen, I've learned enough to try to keep things going, try to turn things around in the next session. Number 4, how do you handle bad players? What are some ways you would describe uh, a behavior of a bad player in my view? Um, Not really sure the wording on that, but how do I handle bad players? I, depending on how bad the behavior is, if it's more of a minor like irk, or it's something that bugs me, I will just try to talk to them after a session. If it's something that's ruining the fun for everyone, if it's something that is obviously annoying everyone at the table, I will stop the game, try to pull the player off to the side. If it's something that needs addressed like instantly, some sort of like harsh criticism of another person, name calling, racism, sexism, anything where you're making another player, not another character, but another player feel very uncomfortable. You're sort of getting made meta. You're sort of above the character in that regard, and you're basically being a jerk or an asshole or something. I will just stop the game right there and just do it in front of everyone. And often, depending on the person's reaction, if they go off the handle, that might be the last time they're in one of my games. That might be the last minute they're in one of my games. I'm gonna escort you out of my house, or tell you to get the hell out, something like that. But as a general rule, I try to talk to the person one on one and see if there's anything that could be done to change that behavior, and talk about it, and basically set some sort of parameters in there that if this happens again, or if this happens, in the next couple sessions, then there's going to be some consequences. So you're being nice, but the hammer is there, just in case. Yeah, they need to sort of respect your position, I think, as a GM. But you can also do this as another player too. So yeah, um, bad be. I also did a video about annoying behaviors of players. I think it's like frustrated GMs everywhere, or something like that. It's basically a list of different things that really bug me. I'll try to remember to put that in the links, but we'll see. All right, number 5. What's a good player in my opinion? What are some of the things that good players do? or what are some of the things good players do? A good player is someone who has good attendance, maybe even before that, good communication. Um, just keeping like tabs on the game, letting the game master know, letting their players know what's going on. I love when um, like groups have like a forum or like a Facebook group or an email group that bounces emails back and forth all the time. I love to see players interacting when it's not the game. You know, like during the week between sessions, however long it is between sessions, keeping things going in a way, not necessarily playing, although I've seen groups do that too, but just keeping tabs with each other, talking to each other at the actual game table, being respectful, being able to take a turn and not always want to have their 2 cents out there. Willing to let other players talk. I do like players that role play and get into character. Um, the more that I've played, maybe the older that I get, the less I like out of character table talk, but I still, I think it's still part of the game. I probably put up with more of it than say like a very immersive player, but I'm sort of becoming more immersive, I think, as the years go on. So just less table talk, um, less stories about your wife and things like that. But that I think that has a place before a session and at the end of a session. So I think I lean more towards that these days. All right. So yeah, that's some of those. Number 6. How do you handle splitting up a group? If you do, if not, can you say why? When actually it's not when I split up a group. I guess maybe sometimes that happens, but it's often the choice of the players to split the group up. And I think it's just a thing that it should be known is that if you split the group into multiple little groups, not just two, sometimes I've been in games where it's like 3 or 4, or in my Changing the Lost game, I had 7 players and they all wanted to do the solo campaigns, so that was a nightmare. Yeah, that was way too many little stories to handle, and I think the players didn't understand that if you go off by yourself, I have to deal with you, take a break, and deal with everyone else. So I really try to be equitable with time. I try to focus on different people. I try to bounce back and forth so that everyone gets a turn. I've seen groups where they'll focus on one character or a small group and ignore almost everyone else at the table for long periods of time, up to an hour, and that really bugs me as a player and a GM. So I really try to bounce the focus around to the different groups that have split up, and just let them know that, well, this is how I'm gonna do it. If you don't like this in the game, then don't split up. But a lot of times it makes a lot of sense. It's more um, has more tactics involved. Well, we're gonna hit from the front, you're gonna hit from the side, we're gonna ambush from this corner. So it can make sense, and I think it does have a place. But the players have to have some patience, and they have to understand that you can't clone yourself into 3 other people and deal with them each individually and give them 100% of your time. So yeah, let's get my feet out of here. um, so that was that. Just basically just split up my time and try to give everyone a little bit of the action. Number 7. What do you prefer more? Interaction roleplay, combat, puzzles, traps, or a mix? And that's from the player tag video. And in that same video, or in that video response, I picked interaction and roleplay as my favorite. Number 8. Do you tinker with the rule set you use or use it as it is written? And would you explain why? If you've ever watched my channel, I think you already know the answer here. I like to make my role playing system, in the vernacular, my bitch. I often tinker on rules. I'll switch things out. I'll add on things from other systems. Like, let's say something like initiative. If there's a game that has an initiative system that I really like side initiative and like Labyrinth Lord, I'll hack that into a game. Or like the Savage Worlds card initiative, I'll put that in there. So yeah, I tinker on things. I make Franken-monster rule sets. I do all kinds of stuff with house rules. The next time I run a D&D type game, like a fantasy game, I'm gonna bring in the Dragon Warriors shield rule, which is like 1 out of 1d6 times the shield blocks a successful attack. And yeah, I talked a little bit in my O5R game about, or O5R video about why I enjoy that. But yes, I am a, a constant rules tinkerer. I just find that um, I don't hold game designers up on a pedestal like some other people. I think they're just geeks like me, and they don't know my group. They don't know the way I like to play. And while they might have a certain intent for their game, I know what I like. I've had lots of time to think about my preferences. And yes, it's fun to try new systems, and sometimes it's good to just try a system without tinkering on it. But I don't know about you. Often when I read through a new game, there's just a rule that just like stabs me in the face, and I just don't like it. I really can't stand it. I hate the way it works, especially if I understand that rule. So I'll gut it often and replace it with something else. So yes, put me down as a constant rules tinkerer, and that's just who I am. This might be a pretty long video. Okay, on to the next question. Do you mind running NPCs with a group of player characters? I have done it. I will probably do it again in the future, but I don't really enjoy it. I often will forget that they're there. I don't like that thing where if like I'm an NPC in the party and I'm playing the monster, that I'm role playing both at the same time. It gets a little kind of weird. So I prefer, all the PCs to be controlled by, players. I don't like, oh, I'm the ranger in the party because no one wants to be the ranger and we need a ranger. I've seen that happen in games. I really try to stay away from it. Probably my biggest exception to that would be like in a Firefly type campaign, sci-fi, where you're on a ship and there are some character rules no one really wants to play, and that can be a lot of fun actually to interject different plot hooks and things from NPCs and that. So that's probably my main exception because a lot of times you're on a spaceship with these people, and if you don't have NPCs there, you have no way to role play with the players a lot of times. So yeah, that's probably my main exception to that. Next question: thoughts on campaigns and one shots? Do you prefer one more than the other? And again, this is from the player video too. I prefer campaigns more, but one shots can be a lot of fun, especially at conventions. Number 11, how much fantasy versus realism do you apply in most of your games? And this is tough because I think while I do try to base certain things on realism, gravity, things like that, um, there's dragons and there's magic and fire that comes from someone's fingertips, and so so yeah, it's sort of a weird blend of realism and fantasy. And I don't do things in just one way. So one campaign I could do exceptionally gritty, and then the next campaign I'll do sort of gonzo off the wall, uh, campy, sort of pulpy action. So it really depends on what I'm going for with a campaign, and I do try to do different things. I try to experiment with every single campaign that I do. So, whatever my next campaign will be, I'm going to try to do something different and see how that goes out, how that works out for me. All right. So, I guess just a blend, 50-50. That doesn't even feel right, but yeah, just a blend. Number 12. Do you prefer running modules, hacking modules, or running your own story? I've done both. Um, for my Lamentations of the Flame Princess game, I had a lot of fun with the people of Pembertonshire, just a lot of NPC descriptions, and Better Than Any Man was another module, the Three Brides, and that was a lot of fun. It was nice for me having that prep work done ahead of time. Mostly, you have to do your own things to flesh out the certain areas or gut things you don't like. But that was a lot of fun. I did enjoy that, and as long as a module isn't just a railroad from beginning to end. It's not very linear. It's more sandboxy. I really do enjoy that. It has a lot of freedom, and you can sort of spin off of it. But again, with any module, it's not that hard to do your own thing and to just come up with some cool stuff on the fly or in your prep time. So I think I answered that. It's getting kind of late. But I think even when I run modules, I do bring in some of my own story elements. I know I did that in my Lamentations game. But that's a tough question. I think probably running my own story is more preferable, but I do enjoy modules too. Number 13. What gaming system has gotten you the best results? Tell us about it. Now, this is kind of vague. Um, Results. So I guess the proof would be in the pudding here. I've run a long campaign. Labyrinth Lord, I ran a pretty long campaign in my local gaming club. It went for several years, so that was cool. Surprisingly, I'm gonna have to pick, I guess, Rollmaster here. I ran my longest campaigns when I was just starting the hobby with Rollmaster. My brother and some kids from down the street. We had the same characters for years, so that was some long haul campaigning back in the day, and those characters were ungodly because we didn't really understand the whole idea of the skill progression, how you learn fast and then it slows down. We had like a straight like 45-degree angle for skill costs. We didn't quite get that, but they were a lot of fun. Very powerful characters, and there's a reason that they probably didn't die, even in Rollmaster, because of how just ridiculous they were in some regards. But I guess Rollmaster. It's kind of surprising for me. Um, if we're going by results, like the length of the campaign. So yeah, Rollmaster. All right, this next question has got me stumped. What method has gotten you the best results? Tell us about it. It's really sort of open-ended, and I guess that could be a good thing for a list of questions. Um, the only thing I can really think of is just very intense role playing of NPCs. Just really getting into character, and especially some of the very weird, psychotic, like messed up ones. Um, I've had very good results, I guess, by just role playing a character to the hilt. Just go with it. Just think what that person is like, and just be ready to respond like instantly whenever something is thrown my way or thrown that character's way, NPC's way, and just being able to respond right away. So I guess just really getting into character as an NPC is my method. That seems to have paid off pretty well. Got me some good word of mouth at the local convention I run games for and just in my local area. So yeah, we'll go with that. Number 15. What got you into running these kind of games? And I don't, I'm not really sure what you're talking about here. I'm guessing maybe this is back to running modules. Um, Maybe just role playing games in general. What got me into running them is that I needed to run them if our local group was going to play. My brother ran games about a third of the time when we first started, so I was the de facto GM most of the time. After that group sort of broke up and I moved on, I had a little bit of a hiatus. There was like third edition games and all kinds of different stuff after that. But most of the time it came down to that I had experience and that I knew what I was doing for the most part. Again, with some flaws here and there, trial and error. I learned as I went. But but yeah, I guess it's just that I've had experience, and a lot of people don't always want to run games. Um, so there's that, as well as I just have these ideas that pop into my head for campaigns that just sort of need to come out. They need to be fleshed out and ran, or they just end up in folders in my filing cabinet and may never see the light of day. But at least I got them written down just in case I need some inspiration in the future sometime. So I don't know if that's an answer, but we'll go with that. Those are my answers. If you've stuck with me this long. I applaud you. You have the patience of a saint. But CondorDM, hopefully those are some good answers. It's well after midnight here, so I'm gonna crash and go to bed. But yeah, I will hopefully be making more videos in this style as I try to find ways to come to you with these videos. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I'll talk to you all later.